Christian. I go by Skisonic. I'm from Baltimore, Maryland, and my voice is raspy now because I'm at the end of a tournament, and that's what I'm pretty much known for. Getting really raspy after getting really loud for commentary on a bunch of games during a tournament. I've been playing fighting games since, I like to say as long as I can remember, because some of my earliest memories are Street Fighter II. But going to the arcades ever since I was like 7 or 8 years old. And Street Fighter II is always among my favorite games, and that's something that I got from my older brother. And it was just kind of one of those, like, what your older brother does is cool type of things. So I knew that that was cool because he did it, so I stuck with it, and I enjoyed it. And I played on until really when I was about 15, 16 in high school. Marvel vs. Capcom 2 tournaments were a thing, and I kind of just found out about Shoryuken through a friend. We started going to tournaments. So, I mean, I started out in Marvel vs. Capcom 2 in tournaments, and I was playing really scrubbily, starting off with like Jill, and I don't know who else, but I quickly found out that that was not a tournament team after being exposed to the scene. So I switched my team to Storm, Cable, Cyclops, and that didn't really work out for me too well. So eventually, Marvel vs. Capcom 2, my definitive team, became MSP. I love that team because the variety of things that you can do with it. There's so many ways that you can hit an opponent. I'm like, man, MSP for me like makes video games more interesting than dating a little bit, because you know, like you go on a date. At the end of the night, one of two things is going to happen. You're going to go home with that girl because that's what you want to do, or you're going to get turned down and you're not going to go home with that girl. But yo, with Magneto can hit you from one of 4 sides or throw. He can go up, under, over, you know, and then throw you. So MSP, Magneto, Storm, Psylocke was a team for me. CVS 2 was another of my main games. A-Groove Hibiki and A-Groove Rolento made that game for me. A-Rolento saved the game for me when I thought it wasn't fun, and I just figured out that as a character that you could move around with and bait people with offensive maneuvers and do cool things. And A-Hibiki was just a character that so close to my heart, because my first big screen moment was A-Hibiki, where I killed Wakamatsu, a Japanese CVS2 player, with the overhead from Hibiki twice, right, on the big screen, because I dropped my A-Groove custom combo, and it's horrible to get hit by that fucking overhead, because that shit sucks, right? But back then, it was like 2002, you know, it's kind of fast, you know, people didn't really recognize the animations, and I dropped my combos, and I reacted and hit him with the overhead twice to finish him, and then, you know, all the West Coast players that I didn't know were like, hey, man, good stuff, you know, hey, cool, man, you want to come out to the club with us? And I'm like 16 years old, I can't. But that was fun. So those characters, MSP, A-Groove Hibiki, A-Groove Rolento, and in Street Fighter 4, it's El Fuerte. And again, it's the move, man. He's similar character to Rolento for me. Character that really makes the game for me and lets me play the style that I want to, because I just love to press buttons. Xanadu is a recently opened spot in Baltimore, and it's pretty nice because it's given us a place to gather, and that's something that we haven't had for a while. That is actually a bit of a difference between us and other scenes, because we didn't have the number of arcades, and our arcades, the best arcades we had dropped off in the early 2000s. Places like New York, they've still got a scene to an arcade at which to congregate, at least. But so we have Xanadu, which is a card shop, but they also have tournaments. They've been holding weekly Rambats called Zambats on Wednesdays, and as well they've been having monthly tournaments for a while. So it's a good spot for anybody in the area to go get out and get some competition. People will come from Delaware, people will come from Northern Virginia. Well, Maryland is a state, so I mean, when you get down to it, the New York scenes like that have an advantage in other scenes because they have a lot of players in a small area. Maryland is not to the same extent. A lot of the better players are concentrated in the greater Baltimore area. Obviously, that's the bigger city. But some of our better players are out on, like, say, Waldorf, which is more western, and also the Maryland scene is not just Maryland scene. We really call it the Maryland, Virginia scene. So that's 2 states right there that you're dealing with, and that's 7 or 8 hours of travel time just to try to get the best players from our region together. So that's one big difference, just the size and the space. But as far as skill level is concerned, I think that there's a lot of great players in Baltimore and Maryland that can go toe-to-toe with some of the best players in I mean, the world, honestly. We've had world-level players. For one, I mean, there's no reason to be a douche. It's like, my general philosophy on life is that if everybody gives like 110%, then that would be cool, and you'll make up for that douche that's gonna give like 70% or like 40% if enough of y'all get together. So, I mean, if you want to stamp out the like the hard-headedness, in the best way is to just be open, and you know what I mean. And I did an Alphaism podcast about this. I really put it online. I said I understand what the old players are like. I feel like I've been watching guys like Valle and John Choi, and for them it's really about beating Japan, because the rivalries have grown, but so too has the battlefield. And like John Choi said, at the end of the day, the rivalries, the inter-rivalries between the scenes can become petty, and the infighting can cause problems, and you know, it can cause just a lot of dissent in the ranks. I don't like negativity in the area if we can, and man, let's go beat Japan, and for that it's going to take all of us, and it's going to take everything that we have, because we've been getting bodied by those guys for a long time. So if everybody contributes as best as they can, maybe we can find our way. It's not going to be the same for us as it is for Japan, so you know, let's try a little bit of everything. Maybe we have a newbie Saikyo dojo on Shoryuken.com, and maybe that will help. Maybe somebody will learn. I'm sure that there's no one in Japan that became a top player through a newbie Saikyo dojo, but this is a new day, and this is a totally different country, so whatever we can do to bring along new players. And the last reason is because competition is fun. I want more competition. Whatever it takes to bring in more new people. I want people to have fun with the game like I do, and like understand the game, be able to watch it and enjoy it on more of a level than seeing visual representations of characters on the screen. For me, I'm from Baltimore, East Coast kid. It's Eddie Lee, okay? Eddie Lee was just the guy that you heard of, because you're not from New York, and there's no videos. Eddie Lee, the legend, was that this guy was banned from tournaments for using Double War Machine because he was so good, and that's all anybody knew. He's banned from tournaments, Eddie Lee. He was kind of a name for me. Aside from that, Arturo Sanchez was the first real top player that I met that I had a good acquaintance with, and one of the coolest things that he said to me was that I was like, you know, I feel like I can hang with you guys, and I know the game and everything, and I can't put it together for execution. And he's like, yeah, man, it's because you hang with us. And that made me feel like, you know, I was an insider at that point. My first big tournament was actually NEC 1, and that was one of the first big tournaments that Justin Wong won. And his rise, like, I mean, I've been to a lot of tournaments that he has, and I've been like friends with him and a fan of his, and I'm just a fan of how deep his Yomi really runs. You know, he just, to borrow a phrase, he reads like books, man. Like he's in the guy's head on a level that most other players couldn't even conceive of. It's like that for a lot of players when you get to that level. I mean, there's so many players that I admire for different reasons. Justin, for, like I said, his reading and also his reactions. Ricky Ortiz for his incredible reactions, among the highest level reactions, I would say hands down in the world. You know, John Choi for his, you know, textbook play style. Alex Valle for his ability to put it all on the line and really sniff out when that dragon punch is going to ring true, and that will dent you all the way to your soul. I mean, I could go down the list forever, but I'll just name a couple of Japanese players as well. Of course, Daigo Umehara, because the thing that I heard about him, and I don't know if this is true, I heard that he was trying to write a book about Ume, right? Which is fucking sick to me, because I'm like, yo, Ume, that's a concept, you know, I'm trying to break that thing apart. I heard that he tried to write a book on Ume, but he gave up because it was too hard. That's how hard it is to be psychic. I'm so psychic. Let me explain it to you. It's too hard, man. I'm sorry. I can't do it. So Daigo and his Ume, you know, it's like it's become such a concept that you're like, does that guy have Ume? Sugiyama, does he have Ume? So, of course, you know, you can't let Daigo go by. And his rival Onuki for being, I think, the flip side of that, being the ultimate technician. He's less of a feeling player and more of a technical player, even though, of course, you know, both players have to take risks. I feel like Daigo is just not afraid to take these incredible risks that always pay off for him. And the last player I want to say is Sako. Sako, no go! Because he's literally my favorite player, I think. Alright, Ino was my favorite player before him. And then I found out who Sako was. So those two guys are like gods for me because they're gods of execution, for one thing. And that's, for me, that's a weakness that I don't know if I'll ever be able to overcome. So they can make me just dumb out and be an ultimate fan watching them hit like 99% proficiency combos all the way through the tournament. They used to say that Ino had some of the best execution in Japan. You'd show him a combo and he'd be able to do it instantaneously. And of course, Sako, the only player that I know of in all of 2D video games that has a combo that only he can do. The Sako special. It's named after him because only he can do it. I tried to ask him about it in Vampire Savior. How do you do this Boletta combo? Why is it that only you can do it at SoCal Regionals? One of the main reasons I went to SoCal Regionals was just to get to talk to Sako and see him. And he says, it's not that only I can do it, it's just really hard. So, I don't know if there's a secret. Justin Wong swears, he's like, no man, there's a secret, dude, I can do that, I'll do it. And I'm like, forget about it, man, you're done on that one. But Sako and Ino for being incredible executional gods, I'm a fan of that because no matter how hard I work, it's just, for me, I feel like that's a talent for them. On Wake Up Shoryuken just recently, I had a podcast, my interview was BLG Zangief. And he's a top player, he's an incredible player, easily the best Zangief in North America. And his Yomi, which is so incredible, the way that he reads other players, implies to me that he's been playing people so long, you know, that he has a great understanding of how people act and react. But in the interview, come to find out, he's just been playing games. He's been playing Street Fighter since he was a child, like most of us. But he really didn't go to arcades. He really didn't socialize. And he's from NorCal. There were arcades out there, but he really didn't know people that played the game. He just kind of played it on his own in his free time because he loved it. Street Fighter 4 comes out. You know, he's still playing. He finds out a little bit about tournaments and makes a jump. And in less than 2 years' time, he is dominating West Coast. Honestly, dominating. And I've asked him, you know, how did that work out for you once you started to make a name for yourself? Did you go out to sessions? Did you make friends? And that was his story, essentially. You know, he went out to a couple tournaments with no one, with no friends, nobody he knew. The scene seems like a pretty intimidating place sometimes because there's some very strong personalities. And also the game, it's a fighting game. So it definitely stirs up emotions because you're up there fighting the other guy, at least metaphorically. So you have this really tough buttheads personality in and of and about the game. But aside from that, everyone is having a lot of fun, having drinks, practicing, having sessions all over this hotel room. I've been at many a tournament where afterwards I'm just walking around listening to rooms for buttons and tapping and I'm like, oh, wait a minute, that sounds about fast enough for Marvel, knock on the door, so I mean it's a pretty open place once you get in here, and I've met a lot of people that are a little bit intimidated, but I'm glad to see that I'm meeting them obviously at tournaments, so I'm glad to see them come out, and I feel like everyone that might be on the fence about an event, if you don't know anyone, don't worry about it, man. Just come out. There are people here that don't know anyone, and there are people here that do know people. So you can find people, and we'll introduce you to people as well. And in your drive to become a better player, just don't forget to have fun because that's really what it's about. And if you're trying to win without having fun, you're going to get discouraged, and you'll probably be one of the people to throw the game away for a while. Don't let that be you. Have fun. Come out, have a drink, whatever, and leave the game in its place, and then go train after your losses. Let it sit, let it marinate, and come back even stronger.